Okay, we are now live on Channel 9 and we are now recording.
All right, I'd like to open the meeting of the Townsend Affordable Housing Trust for Thursday, November 16th. Could I have a roll call, please?
Dave Whirlin, present.
Beverly Napier, present.
Cindy Boundy, present.
And Veronica Kell, present. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded and it's live on Channel 9. I have no additions or deletions. Does anyone else have anything?
No.
Nope. All right. We do have the Townsend Housing Authority with us today, Courtney Borelli and Jack Moran.
Correct. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to move to meeting business, and I'm looking to see. I don't have the THA agenda with me, so I think what I'm going to do is on 2.1, let's just do chairman's additions and deletions. There's going to be a TAHT report on what we're doing, and I would like to add in there a report from the our guests from the Townsend Housing Authority to do their report. Courtney, did you have a report? More or less?
I think we're going to talk about all the items that are probably going on with us within some
Well,
of
we
these.
can, what we can do is I can just go through our timeline and our properties, etc. You know, what I was going to go through, or what we were going to go through for TAHT. We were going to look at the 5-year action plan, the timeline for the properties and the status of each of those, and talk about what we're doing with each of those. So if it fits in that you guys can contribute to that conversation, I think we're good with that.
Yeah, so I guess what's on ours that we could add on to it is we have a little bit of an update on the goals and strategies that came out of the HPP that we were working on.
Okay.
As well as kind of the zoning. I can give you an update on what's happening with the zoning changes that we had proposed.
Okay. All right. So let's do it that way. We'll start with the TAHT action plan. So we've added in the THA goals in 2.2. And then if anything comes up while we're talking, we can just, go from there. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I tried to get things set up for the 5-year action plan. Hang on 1 minute. So I'm going to try screen sharing, you guys. So this is from the 5-year action plan. Hang on 1 minute. No. I'm going to unshare my, wait a minute. Cancel. Let me go. Where is it? It's this one.
This is one.
Okay, I'm going to try to unshare here. Did it come up? Are you guys seeing?
There we go.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I don't know why it looks different on my screen. I had a different thing up. All right. So this is our for each of our properties. So these are the properties that were transferred to the housing trust at town meeting. And Cindy, Dave, and Beverly, jump in there at any time. So we have these 6 properties. We kind of look at it as the South Row Road. We're right now concentrating on South Row Road and Haynes Road because that was what we planned for fiscal year 24. So South Row Road, that property has an old plan from when the town was going to put affordable housing on here or workforce housing many years ago, like 2007. We are concentrating on these two properties. Down here, you'll see forestry plans for the existing properties. We have met with a forester for these two properties to do a forest cut. And we are trying to get a contract together. We're a little delayed in that because it didn't get to me. I mean, Adam had sent it in October, but I didn't realize. So David, I'm really glad you sent me that email because I had no idea he had responded to one of my earlier emails, like late September. He responded and I never got it until Monday of this week after you sent me that email. So thank you. So we have to put together the contract for the logger that we're working on, because we are planning to do a forestry cut on these two properties, a larger piece of Haynes Road, which is 34740, and also South Row Road. Once we get that done, which at this point might be later in the year than we planned, we were going to do a wetland delineation on South Row Road and see what we can do about a plan of land for that. We've also been talking with Mass Housing Partnership about, and Cindy and I can talk about our visit to Sunderland. On this one, Haynes Road, do a survey. And we had originally thought we were going to do an A&R to divide for the sale of the back part to Mass Fish and Wildlife. But from what I can tell from the maps, there's something called Settlement Farm that owns the piece that abuts us to the north end of that property. So I'm not exactly sure why Fish and Wildlife was saying that it abutted their property.
There is a big piece in between the two, just from, I know that piece pretty well. And there is a big parcel in between that has just done a forestry cut over the last year. And so there's definitely a divide between the two, between that piece and the Fish and Wildlife piece up the road.
Yeah, I do believe a back part of that property, that means farther up the hill and kind of to the east, is biomap 2. It's endangered, it's priority habitat, a very small piece of it. And that, and so I thought that the piece that you're talking about, Courtney, was owned by Fish and Wildlife, but it is not.
No.
So I don't know that this is feasible. As far as selling it, a back part of it to Fish and Wildlife goes. So more to be explored there. So Beverly and David and Cindy, anything to add on this?
No, I think it got it covered pretty much. You know, I think the focus is on right now South Row Road, you know, and see what we can do there.
Yeah, I guess my only question would be like, why Dudley is so far down in the list, only because it's come up so many times recently, that particular parcel for development.
So actually this one, we have to discuss whether it makes, certainly I still think that our plan to do a forestry cut on Haynes Road is worth it. However, developing it, because Cindy and I went to a talk in Sunderland, we toured one of the Mass Housing MHP, what does P stand for?
Yeah, production, Mass Housing Production.
One of the properties that they worked with Sunderland on, and the thing with this is there's no town water there. Dudley Road does have town water, as does Blood Road has the capacity for town water. And if you have town water, you're much better off than if you don't. So it
Yeah.
may mean that we want to re-examine this. We weren't going to do this one till out in FY 2027.
Yeah,
And these two are more because they're the largest parcels. Dudley Road is only 11 acres and it's oddly shaped. You know, it's
Yeah.
a strip, a strip, a strip.
Yeah.
So that was why we weren't considering that. These
Can I
two,
ask about, is that the parcel that is abutting the Atwood Acres?
correct.
Yes, but it kind of straddles it.
Yeah,
It's not a,
and a lot of it's wetland, right? Like,
yeah,
big
it's,
chunk of it.
yeah, I have maps if you want
So,
If you
I wish
want.
Chaz was here because he knows a little bit more information about this, but I know for quite a while they were talking about the possibility of a land swap with that piece of property, with it some other piece of property.
all right,
Um,
so what they're
this is
talking about is the
very-
property over here, and it
Yeah.
is it's the
Yeah. she's got
open
that.
space of an OSPD. And
Ah,
that is
okay.
protected. You would have to go to the legislature.
Yeah.
Because that's the way our zoning bylaws. I mean, this is what kind of land is it called? Sorry, my brain isn't as functioning that well. But anyway, it's you have to go to the legislature and they have to vote to allow you to do that. Because
Gotcha.
this property is protected. The people that live here
Yeah.
bought their properties knowing that this property behind them
Yeah.
would be protected in perpetuity.
Okay,
And
yeah,
so that's why that's not feasible.
yeah,
So this is from the 5-year action plan. This is available. I'm projecting this from what's online on the Affordable Housing Trust page on the town website. So you
Yep.
have all these maps where you can see this is what we did with the DLTA grant with MRPC. So it shows the environmental constraints, and basically the part that has no constraints on this piece is this and back here.
yeah,
So what we could do is see if we can get an agreement here to come in through this and have parking back here and
Yeah.
put townhomes or something back in here. But this is constraint and that's our frontage.
yeah,
This, no constraint, but still, you know, if we were gonna put a driveway in, we're not gonna get a whole lot in here.
right.
So that's the Dudley Road property and why we didn't concentrate on it.
Yeah,
So these two are our largest pieces. So anyway, we've requested support from Mass Housing Partnership. I think everybody on the Housing Trust has seen the email where they said Townsend was removed from their list of towns to support because someone in Townsend informed them that we didn't want to work with them.
what?
I know, that was kind of a thing.
That was a surprise to us because when Cindy and I talked to them in October, when we went to tour the property and see how Sunderland did what they did, Sherry from MHP said, send me an email and we'll get you on our supported list. And then we were told that, you know, MHP was told that someone in Townsend told them they didn't want the support. I checked with Eric, and as far as I know, that did not happen. So I got back to them saying, you know, I talked to MRPC and I talked to the town administrator. And as far as we know, that's not the case. Could you please reevaluate? And I haven't heard back.
It's not like there's a fee for.
It's not like something
The
that you
relationship,
would
right?
ever want
No.
to
No.
say no to as well.
That's,
Right.
that's what I thought. I was really surprised because they were so good. And the thing that we went to in Sunderland was so good and And I know other meetings that I've gone to, people are like, no, you want to be involved with MHP because that's their whole job, is to help you with your housing production. And so I don't know where that came from. So I don't know.
I can't imagine Chaz. Whatever.
I was hoping he would be on today.
Yeah, I don't think he would
I
ever deny,
just don't
you
see
know,
that being,
I don't think he would ever say no to something like
Consistent
that
with
either,
us.
but I can't speak for him or,
Yeah.
you know, or that.
Because even forgive me if I'm overstepping here, but the email was like, no, we were told, you don't want us, you don't need us, and you don't want us. And it was kind of, it's like, oh, okay. So, so I don't know, but that was just the thing. I noticed in your things, you use a lot of mass housing, which is another, quasi-state thing, but I think the MHP thing, after being in Sunderland, they were great. They were like, no, we will help you get grants to put in septic
Yeah.
systems. We will help you get grants to, to move these projects forward to, and so I was impressed with them.
I think we need all the help we can get, so.
Exactly,
um,
exactly.
yeah.
So,
it's technical support, basically. But we wouldn't have
Yeah,
we don't have the scale.
yeah, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have
Legal
anything.
knowledge and,
Yeah.
knowledge
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
the rule, like septic detail, I
Hmm.
certainly wouldn't know
and so.
well, I guess let us know if you need anything from us to them too, to try to re-engage them if it, if you don't get anywhere and they need something from our end as well. I mean, I can't imagine they do, but whatever you need to, I guess, get them back in, let us know.
I know, yeah, I just had to figure out where, yeah. So,
So that's our this year plan, pretty much.
Mhm.
As far as the timeline of the properties and the status. So I think our first thing is to get the forestry engaged. Oh, I should also say we did field trips to look at properties, town in Littleton. We went to Littleton, Westford, Pepperell, and was it Bolton? To look at
Harvard.
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 To look at affordable housing developments and to see what we liked. And there was one in Littleton that we really liked the houses. What was the name of it? Something farm.
Okay.
Do I
Yeah,
have? Yeah,
so,
I'm sure I
can't
have.
remember the name of it, but it was worth the trip to go and look and see.
Do you know where it was in Littleton?
Off of 110? Was it off of 110, Ronnie?
It's off of 119.
Oh, it's off of 119.
It's
but-
called, okay, hold on.
Oh, is this the one that has the
I
blue
have
house?
our,
It's like
No,
the
it's-
single.
it's
our
not that
field
one,
trip
but,
here.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry.
Jones Acres, 100 Spectacle Pond Road, Littleton, Mass.
Spectacle Pond.
It was an adult development built in Littleton on Spectacle Pond. So it has a segment of open, it was really kind of nice. You pull in and you go back, the houses are all single family. It's all 55 and over. The houses are kind of like long and narrow, but they have kind of a porch in the front and a garage, a one-car garage, and then it kind of goes back. So, and they're single story. And they were they look kind of the same, but there were some differences. There were maybe 20 of them or so. And farther back, they had a gazebo, like a neighborhood gazebo, and that's where the path goes to the open space part. And it was very nice. It's pretty new. And the general contractor was John Giamo, was what I was told. But Allison tried to contact him, and the contact information we had wasn't correct or some such thing. Is that right, Allison?
Yes, so at the last meeting, I don't think you guys had his number, but you Googled him during the meeting and gave me the phone number. So I tried that and it wasn't in service. And, you know, I'm usually pretty good at researching and finding contact information, but there just wasn't much out there for him. So I don't know if there's like a misspelling or if he's moved. But if you guys have an accurate contact for me, I'm glad to reach back out. Just let me know.
I get it
talk
off
about
the permit
Mm,
for the property.
From the town.
From the town, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
was his role general contractor, or is he like an affordable housing developer, or is he?
what's a GC?
A general contractor.
General contractor.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I thought it was, but that's what I that's what I was given on that, so. So we have a little bit more work to do with that. And again, when we talked to MHP, they were like, oh, you might not want to reach out directly to developers. They said, talk to them a little differently than, because of the, being able
Yeah.
to, put it out for bid. You don't want to give the impression of an unfair advantage to anybody.
Yeah.
But we also, the neighborhood at Birch Drive in Pepperell was nice. That was, 5 affordable, 20 single family homes, 5 of them affordable. The Elms on Stowe Road in Harvard, they're, the garden style 1 bedrooms, the low building, not the tall building, could be a possibility for Dudley Road, something like that, where they were all connected, kind of. They look good though. So anyway, so we've done our field trip. We've looked around. When did we do that? October?
Yes.
That we did.
Early October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's kind
Can
of
I
where.
just ask, so you mentioned that, like the Jones Acres, 20 single family homes, and the Birch Drive, I think, did you say 25 single family?
That was
Did-
20 as well. 5
20.
affordable.
Okay, and what's the model? Are they homes that were sold to the occupants? Are they being rented? Are they being rented with a subsidy?
The ones on Jones Acres, I think, were sold with, deed restrictions to keep it 55 and over. The neighborhood at Birch Drive is kind of like Coppersmith Way. As far, again, single family homes, not rentals. These are not rentals. I don't know if the ones on Jones Acres are sold as condos with a homeowners association, or whether they're single family. I don't know that. More investigation to come. We just kind of got the places, some of them out of the 5-year plan, some of them that we were told about and drove around. There was also a place in Littleton that we didn't go to, farther down 119, past Donlands. If you look to the right, there's a development.
That's
have-
one with the blue house.
Okay.
They have a
what is it?
couple of those that are, it's market rate with some affordable in it.
Yeah, I know it's like Cooper Road or Cooper Farm or, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Huh.
South Row Road, we haven't come to any final decisions, but we could do a 55 and over. We've talked about doing that 55 and over with market rate and a percentage affordable. Because in town here, I think that there is a market for market rate 55 and over.
Yeah.
But we have to have 25% at least affordable 55 and over in order to meet the criteria for the trust and affordability. And that could make it more lucrative for a developer, more enticing. If there's an element of market rate. and it isn't all affordable. Haynes Road, we were thinking all workforce development. But again, no decisions have been made. We're still looking. But we do need assistance, and MHP's assistance would be very, very helpful. And I thought you could only get assistance from them by the grant program that closed in the fall. But she said, no, they have to work, to work with towns, especially since we have land that could be used and we have funds to do wetland delineation, because the town has to put some sort of funding into it in order for it to be enticing for developers. You can't just say kind of, here, you buy the land, you do this, you do that. The town has to put some sort of funding into it.
Yeah. Mhm. I know when we were in Sunderland, it was interesting because they didn't have land. They were relying on people who would donate or, make a gift.
Yeah.
So when, we were talking to them, we said, no, we have 6 parcels. They were like, well, there you go. We have 6 parcels and we have, they were like, we should get this going. And they seemed very excited about it, so that was kind of encouraging. That was encouraging.
Yeah.
So
They said that the funding for it, then is like a layered funding, one-stop funding. I'm looking at my notes here. PATH grant for the RFP, whatever a PATH grant is. Community one-stop, CDAC for a feasibility study. So and then Mass Works for infrastructure. Like they had both water and town sewage though, for this building. We have only town water, so the sewage becomes a thing.
yeah.
But not insurmountable.
Yeah, because those mass grants would be for septic,
Yeah.
to put in a septic system.
Yeah.
That might serve, 15 units or something.
Right.
So yeah, they were very encouraging.
Yeah, that's good.
They were very encouraging.
And they also said you can get CDBG funds for a feasibility. And I'm not sure what the grant cycle is for CDBG funding, the community block development grants.
Yeah, there's
We
another
actually
one
talked
coming
about
up.
that.
Yeah, I think there's
or
the one
Allison,
in
I think, did a bunch of
2024
research.
coming up.
Yeah, I think that must be what Allison has left us here, I suspect.
Yeah.
We're not, so I think Chaz and we work with some CDBGs in the continuum of care. So I work with the continuum of care, my day job, and there's a non-trivial amount of overhead if you become a grant recipient for CDBGs. And I think that was the concern if we go down that road. There might be a specific grant that's sort of a carve out that would be a little bit less burdensome. It's worth taking a look at. I don't mean to be a stick in the mud, but that was, I think, just generally our awareness that if you become a CDBG, you're taking on a pretty significant set of expectations in terms of the overhead that you're going to start to maintain.
So, and Community One Stop, they said that you can apply through that, but that we would need a feasibility study working with the community before we started, going and seeing what do we want to do on this. They also said you want to have support for an RFP for when you're ready, after you do the feasibility study, then you have to put out an RFP, and you want to have support for that as well. Because that is apparently a big process. So, and then it's getting, once someone responds to the RFP, then it's getting the funding together to develop. but we're at an advantage if we've already done the wetland delineation, if we've already, any surveying that needs to be done, that sort of thing. So. Anything
Can I
else?
ask, so the properties you toured, it sounds like most of them were developed for sale. Was there any of them developed and then maintained as a portfolio of affordable housing for any of the
Um,
communities?
Like a rental.
Like rentals, you mean?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by?
Tadmuck Road in Westford. There were two of them that we looked at in Westford, Sugar Maple Lane and Tadmuck Road. Tadmuck Road is a Westford initiative for senior housing who created the project. And the management of the facility is Westford and Chelmsford Housing Authorities. And I believe these are rentals. They have supportive services, looked a lot like Atwood Acres and Townsend Woods. That one did. The one on Sugar Maple Lane wasn't all affordable, but those were townhomes. They had the garages under and they were like 3 stories. And 7 of them were affordable units. So those are the ones that were more of rental. So.
Thank you.
What was the Elms? I'm not sure. Hang on a minute. Let me look at this.
One in Harvard?
The one in Harvard, yeah. It was a garden style, 1-bedroom apartments, 3 townhome style, 2-bedroom apartments, 3 buildings on a 4-acre site with a mix. So these are probably rentals in Harvard, but I don't know who manages it.
Broughton, just as a thing, is putting in 200 rental units. That they just, 25% of them will be affordable. So I don't know, I don't know how I feel
Do
about.
you know if that's the Groton Housing Authority is, they?
Yeah, I believe that they were,
Maintaining
I
themselves.
believe they're combined. I thought when I spoke to her, they may have been combined with Littleton and someone else.
So regional.
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
This is going in front of Ned's.
Yeah, I just remember when I
Oh, you
talked
mean
to her
it
on the
was like
phone,
a joint thing?
that they may have a larger like
It's
it
a
might be,
cooperative.
yeah, it might be a
Like a
cooperative of
regional-
couple, other
Oh,
couple.
Like a high school arrangement.
Yeah.
Oh, I
or
had
school
no,
system.
I had,
And I'm gonna get the towns wrong, but I believe that's what she just said, that there's, there is, obviously there's some housing
Sure.
pieces in Groton, but I think there's a larger
Yeah.
regional as well.
That allows them to,
that's building on that site in Broughton?
I just assume that it's part of the management possibly, or getting the project done. I don't know
management of it.
exactly. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly, but
Yeah, I don't know, but I do know
interesting to
that it was Groton
understand.
zoning that just passed it.
Yeah.
It's hard to know like what's better. I think we don't have like huge parcels of land. I mean, that's 35 acres and they
Yeah.
have sewer and they have water and they
yeah,
have.
yeah,
you
they have a
know,
lot of
So you can
options.
say, yeah, let's put 200 units in right here. This will be perfect,
Right,
I think we have smaller lots
Yeah.
to work with and no infrastructure, so
Yep.
that,
Mhm.
I think it's over, I don't know. I don't even know the number. You may know the number. To put in like a septic system for 10 units, I think is, I don't know, a couple $100,000,
Yeah.
yeah, well, the ones,
Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you're like a single family home is gonna, like a 5-bedroom, single family home is gonna cost you $40,000 to $50,000 for a second.
Yeah,
Right,
so if you put it, and then you run into a lot of developers, if it's a smaller project, no one's gonna make money off of it, so it's hard to know like what's the best way to do things but I think, I don't know, I think maybe we can do something like townhomes. That's why I think we were kind of leaning
Mhm.
towards like townhomes on Southborough Road and something like that would
Mhm.
work, and mixed income,
Yeah, I think for us, the only benefit, one of the big benefits of like the rentals is that we get more counted towards our inventory, right, of affordable housing. So
Yeah.
that part's nice. And I know Chaz has been passionate about having the ability to, be able to make sure town residents get into some places too, right? So the management from our side to be able to do that, which is, you know, which is difficult in places like Atwood Acres and Townsend Woods, we no longer have any
Yeah, 'cause you have control
no
over it.
control.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
But even in Sunderland, they had a management company that did it. The town didn't do it. And they said that initially it was 70% local preference initially. But
Mm.
after that, you can't, it becomes more of a lottery type situation.
yeah.
But
And I think,
go ahead, Cindy.
no, I was gonna say too, I think depending to where your money comes from, then you don't have control
Yeah.
over.
Mm.
You know, if you start getting like the CDG grants and things like, that's federal, and, you know, they're gonna be like, well, wait a minute, you can't
Yeah.
have a little private club here for yourself,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Well,
And even at the state level, it's the same, it becomes the same thing. You
Yeah.
don't have a whole lot of control unless you're fronting it,
right.
you know,
Mhm.
so. I don't know.
there's some element of HUD funding that allows for local decisions. What I do is HUD funded, and I don't know this slice of it, but I would think it would be worth investigating those details to see if there's an
Oh,
opportunity to
definitely.
maintain some local control, even if you're getting HUD funding.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Make sure we're.
I think too, I think the other thing too, if you're doing individual ownership units, you really have to have like the whole process of deed restrictions
Yeah,
really cemented, and so that things don't go off of the affordable housing role, you know, and that's something that you have to do with a deed restriction. You know, so. I don't know.
All right, anything else on this subject, on where we are, what we're working on? So what about the housing authority, Courtney? did
Yeah.
you-
do you wanna unshare just so maybe we can see you guys again? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so a couple of things that we're working on is we, and I don't know if these were emailed to you, but there's a few here. There's a tracking sheet that we've been kind of using to track against our kind of goals and strategies that came out of our HPP. And some of these we're actively working on, some we're not. Some we've said you guys are working on, right? And we know you are. So that's kind of might be the note in this piece here. But there's a few that in particular that I'll talk a little bit about today that we're working on specifically. And so the first one here, and it's kind of actually shown as previous action, was the bylaws that we have proposed as changes, which have gone to the bylaw committee. At this point, there's a copy of those here too, if you guys want to see it. But what it did basically was reducing some size restrictions on single families lots that we had in the current bylaw. So this will kind of show you what's existing and what we've proposed here. It added some pieces for hammerhead and flag lots that are not currently allowed by zoning right now. So trying to open up some possibilities for people to build on lots that haven't been buildable yet because of frontage.
Okay.
The other thing that's in here is some changes to the multifamily zoning that had more of a gradated scale depending on some of the areas that you're in. So we previously had some pretty large lots, and so we've kind of done this. So depending on what area you were in, you had either bigger or smaller lots or more flexibility in the multifamily zoning. So that's in here, and we did change some of the other kind of parts and pieces to that. I won't read through all of them, but.
Can I ask a
Please.
question, Courtney?
Yeah.
On those, and I am on the bylaw committee, I just haven't read that stuff yet.
Yeah.
Did you, in those changes, put in a requirement that a certain number of homes in a development be affordable? or
Well, I
anything
don't
like that?
I don't
Or
think
are
it,
you just making the sizes smaller? I guess my question is, how does
Yeah.
that help affordability and the 10% requirement that the state has
Yeah.
for affordable list?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Some of our goals in doing these were also just to be able to allow for more development here in general. Just that like we're not always very developer friendly, so some of these changes are to do that and be able to just get some overall more housing here. Under the multifamily, we do have a 10% of minimum units must be designated as affordable. That is drafted in here under multifamily. Obviously not under single family because we don't have that same control that way. And it does also have an affordability guarantee, as in we're asking for a deed restriction, guaranteeing that they remain affordable in perpetuity under the multifamily, that 10%. So that is built into here as well. The last one that we have here is a new bylaw. That is not a change to one, it's a totally new one, which is a cluster development or cottage housing, something like that. So that's in here as well, under the last one.
How-
And so it, yep.
How does
Sorry?
that differ from the OSPD that's currently in place? Because the OSPD originally was supposed to be cluster. And
Yeah.
so it was 1 acre lots instead of, 2 or 3.
So I think the big difference on this one is also that I'm gonna get this wrong because I don't have it in front of me, but I think it also just like has a smaller amount of land to begin with too, is here. And I'm not gonna get the numbers right. Like I said, we're kind of looking for a minimum of like 5 acres, where I think the other one was larger. I don't know.
To 8?
I believe that the
8 acres.
multifamily was 8. I don't remember what the OSPD one was. And there's, what it does is it also incentivizes for smaller housing in this one. So, it's saying if you build smaller housing, we'll give you more on that piece of land. So it's trying to make it so that people aren't coming in here and building very large homes that then are kind of not actually trying to do what we're trying to do, which is be able to provide housing for workforce housing, or for single mothers, or for, over 55 without an age restriction. But we're trying to build smaller houses and not have them come in and build huge houses on very small lots.
So that's initially, is there anything like in a deed restriction that requires that the square footage of the home remain below a certain amount? Or could you build up in the future or out? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I don't
start
know.
small, but then you add on and become big.
Yeah, so we do have a maximum lot coverage stuff in here, so I don't think you'd be able to go significantly bigger, or you could only go up to your maximum lot coverage anyways, or your FAR. So I don't think in this case, if they're actually following the lot size that's on here, that they could get to be overly large anyways.
Overdrawn. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, these have gone, I think, to the bylaw committee, as you said, and I think we kind of spent a lot of time last year on this, and then kind of wrapped this up at the beginning of this year, and that's where this came from. If you look at the copy that's in color, it might be a little bit easier to read, because there's some things in there that just kind of show you what was proposed and what's new. It's a little bit easier, so, yeah. Okay, so the other thing we've been talking a little bit about is how to manage our property should you guys get to that point. So we've been talking about that on our side, and trying to kind of figure out how we wanted to do that and what we wanted to do. And so one of the pieces to that was I did talk with Fran from Groton quite a bit about that. And she kind of discouraged that a little bit, not saying that, just saying that it was what they have found was that it was easier to actually get things built if they were not the people managing it. interestingly. And so we didn't get much further on that piece, except that she was saying what they have found there was that if they kind of got the property to the point where they could secure tax credits and then kind of turn it over to the developer, already showing that they have a feasible project with tax credits, that's how they've been able to build something much faster and be able to get things going. So I think I forwarded all of that. I think I had Allison forward you all that information that she had sent me on that piece. So still in discussion, I guess, on management and what we want to do about that. But that is a piece that we have been working on.
I think expanding from that a little, I think we started to talk about nonprofit housing developers, that it might make sense to see if we could get their perspective on feasibility and what it would take to get somebody to be interested. So I have a couple of contacts with Worcester Community Housing Resources, moved communities that operate more in Worcester County than up this far north. So I don't know if we could get them to come this far, but see if we can engage a little.
The other things we've been doing is kind of working through some of the stuff with the ADUs. There's been kind of some parts and pieces to getting the ADUs really up and running that have been a little bit challenging. And so kind of going through that, I believe Chaz has been going through that with an actual applicant. And I know that you had some good insight on that as well, Jack, at some point about the ADUs and lotteries and that kind of stuff. I think a lot of these we've talked about. The other thing is we've just been kind of tracking things that end up on like the tax title properties, just so we have an idea if something comes up that might make sense. And so we've been talking a little bit about how to make a better process of that so that we'd be able to review some of those properties that were taken by tax title so that we can decide if that's a property we may be interested in.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I think we've talked a lot about the CDBG funds as well, which is I think where Allison came up with this piece of paper here. So that's what we've been currently working on. I don't know, Jack, if you want to add anything.
I think everything I had.
Okay,
Just said it.
great.
All right, should we move on then to 2.2 on our agenda, update on the Warren Road property? I was kind of hoping Chaz would be here to talk about this. This is
Yeah,
the
I have to say I
property.
don't have an update either, so.
Yeah, and it was kind of dependent on the selectmen too. That was the one that we were going to use some of the ARPA funds to survey and cut off the back part, because that piece of property abuts Hickory Hills Wildlife Management Area. And we had spoken with Ann Gagnon, and she was, this one is a definite, she's definitely interested. It does abut their property. And then see if we could get on Habitat for Humanity's list for building an affordable unit on the front part with them. So we don't have an update on that then, because I don't know anything more. Allison, have you heard anything about this at all?
I have not heard anything about that.
Okay, all right. So there's no update then. That one. So that maybe for the trust have a meeting on December 4th, so maybe we can find out a little bit more about that. That's a talk to Chaz thing. I think. 2.3 was a discussion of funding, inclusionary zoning, and the CPA. And I put that on there only because we have the ARPA funds, which we will use up before the end of the time period that we have to. And but how do we keep being able to fund affordable housing?
Yeah.
And so
You know,
inclusionary zoning, the Maura Healey, our governor, has come out with a housing plan that includes inclusionary zoning with words that So I was gonna bring that forward on the bylaw committee to see if we can get that in there. Because without the CPA, and there's no guarantee on that, we do need some way to continue to fund in town. A lot of in the housing network that we go to a lot. Cindy, maybe you can talk about Stowe.
I know, so, there was a gentleman from Stowe, they're doing a 9-unit affordable housing, it's all affordable. They have $1 million in CPA funds that they're using. So, the CPA is,
Yeah,
is something we really should have, seeing how we pay into it anyways.
yeah.
And that's what they're using to fund a lot of their things to get this project going.
Yeah.
They're also using other things too, but yeah, it's $1 million in CPA funds. So, and any of the other big projects that you look at, the big projects that they always talk about on the Cape, in Eastham and Brewster and Orleans, they all use CPA funds.
Yeah.
Everybody uses CPA funds for it, so it's just kind of a thing.
So my
I know
understanding was
we-
like another committee picked this up, right? And was kind of trying to get it through. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think I know myself, I took a step back. So-
Yes, so there are others in town who are picking that up, and the idea is to, there are different ways to get it on the ballot. One is a town meeting vote, and that has failed in Townsend 3 times over the past about 15 years. Most recent being this past town meeting. The other way to do it is to petition it onto the ballot. And so that is probably the way it will go. And the ballot to petition it onto would be the presidential election coming up, because more people vote in that. And so you'll get a larger number of people in town with the opportunity to vote on that question, as opposed to the 75 people, 75 voters of the however many, 6,000, 4,000 in Townsend. Instead of just 75, you'll get a much larger percentage of the population, voting population, to consider the question. Jack, you look like you have a question.
Well, the last Housing Authority meeting, Laurie Schiffrin happened to be in attendance, and she actually expressed the perspective that this time through, there was something about the way it's organized that she was pretty optimistic that it should pass. There's something, Allison, is what I'm saying ringing a bell with you? Because
Yes.
there was something about the structure of the way that it's funded.
Yeah, THA was definitely talking about how, CPA would be great to get passed through, and it would be a real benefit to the community, especially being able to obtain additional grants. Like a lot of the grant requirements are that CPA be passed in town. I think it had more to do with, it's not necessarily coming from tax dollars, but it's funded slightly differently. I'm not sure I'm getting that completely right.
It has never been from tax dollars.
Well,
So I
think
don't know how people got that. It's a kind of
there
a
was a transfer component where property transfers had something to do with it previously?
No,
Okay.
nothing has changed, nothing
She
has
seemed to
changed
think
on
there
it.
was something that was different
Yeah,
that would
nothing
make
has
it
changed on
more
it.
likely to.
Yeah,
the
but I mean,
process.
my takeaway from the last meeting was it sounded like THA definitely is hopeful to get CPA passed through. I was asked to get clarification about who's working on it now. Should I reach out to you for that, Veronica, or who's like a good?
you can
Okay.
reach out to me.
All right, that sounds good.
So I'll be home tomorrow. Are you working next week, Allison?
Yep, I'm gonna be in on Monday. Actually,
Okay.
Monday and Wednesday. Yep,
Okay, so I'll stop by to see you.
that sounds great.
All right. So that's all I have for 2.3, unless someone else has something. The inclusionary zoning would be if there is a development either a certain percentage of it is affordable, or the developer pays into an affordable housing fund in order to continue to provide affordable housing in Townsend. That's what that is. So there's also a transfer tax option that's not CPA, and that would be something that could be looked at, but it's not what CPA is. Discussion of available grants. I don't know, maybe I don't have anything in particular to say there. That was more, Allison, you had sent out a few that we were to look at. So
Yes. So they're printed for those in the room, and everything that's printed in the room, so those were also included on the email I sent out with the agenda, so you guys should have them electronically to look on. But THA had asked me to look into CDBG and get some more preliminary research on it, so the document I attached is just kind of, and printed is just kind of my highlight of notes on what CDBG would entail. It's pretty high level right now. There's a lot of steps even to get through that, which I think is what Jack was speaking to when we spoke about it last week as the THA. You know, there was some discussion around, like with my 9 hours toward grants, would 9 hours even like cover that? Like in the past, they had hired a consultant to kind of address that full time for them. You know, I feel like I gathered some good preliminary information, and I'm certainly glad to dive into it and apply for it. I think we just need to be cognizant and maybe realistic of how much is going to be involved, because it definitely looks like there's a lot of meat to it compared to some other grants that are out there. But that being said, it also has a lot of benefits, so.
There's a
Alright.
component that requires gathering data, identifying trends. That's actually what I do for continuum of care. So I work with census and local state survey information. So I could maybe help out with some of that.
So maybe we can put what is the time frame for applying for that, Allison?
CDBG is due March 4th of 2024. So it's something where we would want to maybe start pulling some information together, and probably have a good working draft in February, I would say.
So it would be for a feasibility study. That's what I would want it for. But we can put this on the agenda to talk about at our December 4th meeting, perhaps. Does that sound good, everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
And then
let's-
I know THA, oh, sorry, go ahead, Veronica.
no, that's keep on going.
Yep, so I'll put it on the agenda for December 4th, and then I know THA has a meeting December 7th, and should I put it on the agenda there?
Yeah.
Too? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that'll be great, Jack, like the more support I have to kind of gather some of the details in there will make it easier for me to actually get it in and make sure I can keep track of everything and coordinate it for you. And then I can move on to the other grant I attached, if you guys are ready.
I'm
Yep.
ready. Yep.
So the other one I attached, bear with me, I'm pulling it back up for myself too. It's a housing and production program, and the reason I attached it, it doesn't seem like it's a classic grant that gives us funds to necessarily do what you want, but there is somewhat of a financing component. But they really talk about like everything that you guys are focused on right now, and it's a mass housing planning program, so I thought it would be good to share that information with you. I kind of just shared a presentation that they have up on their website that talks more about it, and I tried to I didn't want to print the whole presentation, but I printed the pages that had like the most high level overview. So basically, Mass Housing is funding pre-development activities on priority housing developments, and trying to do the contracting directly, it sounds like. So it really seemed to just kind of echo what I've heard you guys talking about it, and thought it would be worthwhile at least sharing it with you for your knowledge.
I'm sorry, I didn't have time this week to go through all this, so,
Do you guys want to take some time and look through it? And since each board has an upcoming meeting, they can talk about it more then?
Yeah, I think so too. I think the mass housing is very similar to MHP. There are a couple of differences between the two of them, but I think mass housing is very similar to MHP. I think MHP might be more owner as opposed to mass housing, but basically they're both, like, quasi-state organizations that help communities with their housing production. So under mass housing, a lot of the homes, they sometimes permit home ownership, but it's mostly rental. Just as a thing. Whereas MHP allows home ownership.
Yeah.
how about if I follow up with Laura Schufelt and Shelley Gehring, was that her last name?
Yeah.
At MHP before our meeting on December 4th. And if we all look through the mass housing, and then we can make some decisions. I think CDBG for the feasibility study sounds good. What about Community One Stop? Do you know when that has to be going in, Allison? That's the one where you just kind of tell them, oh, we want to do this.
Yeah,
And they tell
the-
you where you should apply.
The notice of funding hasn't been released yet for the upcoming year, but I expect it to be probably in December. So more on that. I know a recent one, it was before I started, was turned down. So we have a debrief meeting in December to get some feedback, which I think will be helpful, even just to know a little bit more about what they're looking for going forward. So hopefully that'll help for next year.
Was that for the parking lots and the bus stop?
I'm honestly not
Yeah.
sure.
I think
Yeah.
that's what we applied for
Okay.
Community One Stop for, like last April or some such thing.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, that would be good. All right, so grants on the agenda for the Housing Trust for December 7th, CDBG, Mass Housing, MHP, and if we have the information, Community One Stop. So, okay. That's all I had for grants, unless someone has something else. Was there anything else, Allison, for grants that we should be talking about?
I do not have any other ones right now.
Okay. So, 2.5, what I had on the trust agenda was, what support does THA need from TAHT and vice versa? How frequently should we jointly meet? That's I guess a question that I have.
Yeah, I think last time we had talked about trying to do it quarterly. Is that correct?
Yes, we did, and we didn't quite get there.
I know.
We're kind of semi-annual
Yeah.
right now. But I
Yeah.
think quarterly would be good, or,
Yeah, I think so too, because like it does seem like we're often on parallel paths, right? And to be
Yeah.
able to share that information more frequently, I think would be a good thing.
Do you guys think if we put, like, say the first Thursday at 7 of each quarter, we put a meeting on the calendar tentatively, and that way people could put it on their calendars in advance? What do you guys think?
I'm good with that. If I know I have a meeting, I'll do my best to get there. But if
I
it's,
tried to implement a schedule like last year with THA for like a really set one for the whole year, and I got shot down real fast. But I agree, if I know it's on my calendar like right away, then it's much easier.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that idea.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we'll do
Beverly and
it.
Dave,
And,
how about
you know,
you?
I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Veronica.
I was just wondering if Beverly and David are good with that.
No, I think it's a great idea. I think if you, and if it doesn't work, so be it, but I think, you know, we give it a shot.
yeah.
Yeah.
get
Oh,
something
and
done.
maybe sometimes we have the whole housing authority and two from, from us or
Right.
versa, or, whatever, but just so that we're keeping in contact.
Indeed.
Yes, yeah.
I think even just having it there as a placeholder, like if too many folks are on vacation or wherever they need to be, we'll absolutely move it, but just having it as a placeholder is a good reminder that like, hey, it's time to have a quarterly meeting, so.
Good.
Yeah, I agree.
So are we gonna say the first Thursday in January? Is that what we're thinking? For a quarter or?
Yeah, we could just start it in January, even though I know it's kind of fast, right,
It's
for our
kinda
next one,
fast,
but
yeah.
then we could
We got
just
a lot
do,
going on,
we could
so
just do
we'll be done.
January, March, and then just go, go right and actually keep it on the quarters. Might be helpful.
I agree. And it might be, January is kind of good, especially if we're thinking about grants and
Yeah.
getting, funding and help, kind of fits with the calendar of requirements. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
All right. So first Thursday of January, I better write that down.
Thinking, when is that? Is that right after? That's right.
Anything else, back and, for,
I don't know of anything specific. I have to say, I usually do watch your meetings afterwards, so when I get a chance, sometimes I
Oh,
might just
good.
like send you little notes, but of things. I think I had found a couple of things one other time that I had kind of sent them your way, some housing things, and other
and
stuff.
you know what happened with that is it went to
Yeah.
VCal townsendma.gov.
I know, I did that too. I didn't realize, I didn't, that was the only one I had at the time, so yes,
Yeah,
I'll
it's-
write it differently next time. Yeah.
It's not just you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things that kind of get lost that way.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Hmm.
all right. I'm gonna talk to the town administrator or whomever I need to talk to get that rectified. So anyway, all
Can
right.
I ask a question about your, at one point somewhere in here, you mentioned that 25% was to be, maintained as affordable, of the properties that you would have developed, right? So, the affordability level, there's different thresholds, is that defined?
Um,
Or is there somewhere I could see that?
I think it's in the trust document. It's
Okay.
either in the Declaration of Trust or it's in the Massachusetts Housing Trust Handbook. Both of which, no, the Massachusetts Housing Trust Handbook is not on our website, and maybe I better put a link to that there. But in order for it to be affordable in terms of the trust, and I'm looking at the, well, I'll lose you guys if I do this. It's in the Declaration of Trust. I talked to Adam about that. We aren't, all of our properties won't be 25%. Some will be 100% affordable. But we were talking about the South Row Road being market rate 55 and over as well as affordable. And what I was told, it was 25%. I'm pretty sure it's the Declaration of Trust.
Yeah.
But it could be the Massachusetts Housing Trust Handbook where that's stated. Otherwise, it's not viable for the trust because the Affordable Housing Trust. Let me see if I can get to that, even though I'm.
That's okay, I just wanted, do we know if any of it would be like set aside specifically for extremely low income versus folks that are at like 80% of AMI?
I think we
60%
get to
AMI?
decide that. I think that's,
That's discretion, or you have discretion? right?
yeah, I think we get to decide that. Okay, I'm going through the declaration of trust here, meetings of the trustees. Um,
I don't need an answer right now. I'll take
Okay,
a look at that document as well. I just was curious.
yeah, but that's,
The lowest income threshold is, you know, dear to my heart, where I worry that, you know, it's all too easy to take the, you know, the easiest route would be that the folks at the highest end of the affordability scale, you know, that's easiest to sell to anyone, but the folks that all too often seem to not get represented, are the folks at the lowest end, 30% below or area median income, which,
Yeah.
if they don't have housing options that are made available for them, like,
Mhm.
they're not gonna be able to realistically cut it with a market rate.
Exactly. I know, because sometimes you see these affordable housing and I'm like, wow,
Right.
that's like affordable housing,
It looks like
especially
a
like when we
luxury
go to
apartment
things
to
in
me,
Boston.
right,
I know, I'm
right,
like,
yeah,
wow, it's affordable housing. It's only $800,000,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
I know,
I know.
but I think, you know, these groups decide
Okay, yeah.
what the income levels are. I think too, what happens to Townsend is, I don't know if it's because we're in Middlesex County or where we are, but
It is
we're
because
under the same
we're
income
grouped into
guidelines
Boston.
But MRs
as,
are.
Yeah.
yeah, you know, so that,
Like Waltham and
Yes,
Cambridge.
yeah.
yes.
you know, and so I think we, you know, get to have that discretion to say what act is affordable and what's, so.
yeah.
But you
Well.
need funds too, to make them affordable, you know, because that's
That's true too.
me too. And so, I know, it's tough, it's hard. I'd say that network meeting, Ronnie, that it's a monthly network meeting and it's just very interesting because you realize, you know, when they talk about like, are you gonna get enough tax credits to make a project
Right.
look
Yeah.
good to a developer,
thing is-
you know, or is a developer gonna be like, I'm not doing that, I'm not gonna make anything out of this, it'll
Right.
just be a big headache, you know,
Right,
or,
right.
so it's trying to find that fine line,
Yeah.
but I do think we have land, that's a huge asset, you know, we have land, we're not like looking for land or looking for buildings, we have land, so.
Yeah.
So that's a big plus. No infrastructure, but we have land. So,
I think
Yeah.
the extremely low income folks, they will probably be eligible for low income housing subsidies if we can find those to be able to match and bring into the equation, but.
You mean,
Need-
what do you mean low income subsidies? You mean like Section 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, 18-year
So it's a
waiting
whole-
list for those.
It depends on the community, yeah.
And no, it's an 18-year waiting list for
I
Section 8 housing.
know it is that in some communities, yeah. I know Worcester's like that, but.
No, across the state, across everywhere. I know, I know, because I have tried to find Section 8 housing for people. It's an 18-year waiting list. You know,
That's
so,
beautiful.
but whatever.
All right, anything else? That's all I had on our agenda, so. We've covered everything we expected to cover.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, the Housing Trust next meeting is December 4th at 1 PM. Housing Authority is,
Ours is December 7th at 6 PM. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you.
all right, and we should have a Zoom link for the for that. For the December 4th. So Allison, if you want to grab one of those from Dave and Hartley, that would be great. We'll
Yes,
start.
I have one and it will be in the agenda and on the website.
Excellent. Okay. All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned at 8:24 PM.
Is there-
Second,
All right, all those in favor, and because we're on Zoom, we have to do roll call, so Veronica Kell, yes.
David Whirling, yes.
Beverly Napier, yes.
Cindy Boundy, yes. And you guys guess?
Unanimous.
do you
We're
have-
no, I
do
don't
you
think
have-
we're
do you
allowed
know
to do
how
anything.
that?
All right, it's unanimous, so we are adjourned at 8:24. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.
Are both committees adjourning at once?
Yes,
We
are.
didn't actually
convene,
open, so we're
yeah.
adjourned.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the the housing authority will continue to meet, correct?
No, we
No,
will not.
not-
Oh, you're
no.
adjourning as well.
We don't have a quorum, so we're adjourned.
We did not. meet.
Okay, thank you.
Never opened.
Yes.
Never opened, yeah.
All
Good night.
right, good night.